It's week 13. We've got 50 wideouts ranked and tiered. So before Sunday, let's break down these wide receiver rankings for week 13 of the 2024 NFL season. Welcome to E&M Fantasy Football, presented by ErvinandM.com, where I combine industry-leading data, Vegas sportsbooks, and expert analysis to provide you with optimal weekly rankings for the utmost accuracy when setting your weekly lineups in your fantasy football league. I'm writing this on Wednesday night for Thursday's video. Expect more videos every week for the other unit groupings like running back, quarterback, and tight end. And click the playlist for all the rankings for week 13. To start off, the top 50 wide receivers this week, full PPR. Once again, the wideout rankings get pretty flat in the 50-yard range, but we begin with 80 or more, the S tier. And Nico Collins, 87 over under, 102 yards per game, and he draws the Jacksonville Jaguars' worst in the league pass defense. A.J. Brown, 91 over under, 91 yards per game, and he draws the 31st worst secondary in the league by Baltimore. Puka Nacua, 78 over under, 82 yards per game, and he draws the 30th worst pass defense with the New Orleans Saints. Justin Jefferson, 79 over under, 85 yards per game. He gets a soft matchup too against the 20th ranked Arizona pass defense. And Jamar Chase, 73 over under, but 96 yards per game. He has the worst matchup, but it's the league average Pittsburgh at 17th for pass defense. These guys are the only ones projected by sportsbooks to go anywhere near 80 yards this week. This is the highest amount for week 13. They have the best matchups with the most productivity. They are your elite, undisputed S tier wideouts. A tier begins with the other elite wide receivers. Vegas has these wideouts projected for 70 to 80 receiving yards each, and it's 6. Cooper Kupp. Got an excellent matchup against the 30th worst pass defense of the New Orleans Saints. His production over expected is the highest of the group, putting him at 6 this week. It's a 65 over under, but 78 yards per game. Lock him in. George Pickens, 71 over under, 71 yards per game. Another great matchup. Pickens gets Cincinnati's 23rd best. The team total is good as well. Russell should positively regress against this softer defense, putting Pickens in great position for fantasy at number 7 this week. T. Higgins, 69 over under, 81 yards per game. He's on the other side of the ball. And I know I said Kupp was the most productive over expected, but Higgins with 81 yards per game takes the cake. Steelers are league average against the pass. Expect Chase to draw the elite coverage and Higgins to flourish. And at 9, Ladd McConkey, 69 over under, 64 yards per game. He faces the Falcons' 26th pass defense. This is another high-scoring close game, and nobody should be worried about Herbert and their number 1 this week. Lock him in. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 10, 69 over under, 68 yards per game. He's been a bit underwhelming, but he's still one of the best wideouts in the league. He faces stiffer competition than the others this week with the Bears' 13th best pass defense. Don't be scared. They're huge favorites at nearly 10 points. CeeDee Lamb at 11, 67 over under, but 77 yards per game. In spite of Dak missing, there's really been no regression for Lamb. He's still 10 yards per game over expected, but he does find himself lower down this week, facing the 7th best Giants secondary. The total is the lowest of the week as well, but Lamb will still get the targets he needs for a no-brainer start. Malik Neighbors at 12, 67 over under, 75 yards per game. He's the opposing wideout one on the other side of the ball for New York. Neighbors has also maintained nearly 10 yards per game over expected and has a softer matchup versus the below average Cowboys secondary this week. Lock him in. B tier begins with more starters, with projections from 60 to 70 receiving yards. An improvement over the past few weeks, but it makes sense given there's no buys this week to knock them down. And we'll kick it off with ErvinandM.com. ErvinandM.com is my company my best friend and I started in 2020. We literally make everything ourselves by hand. We have earrings, rings, necklaces, bracelets, tie clips, apparel, and more. Over a dozen curated gemstones and 100 handcrafted products. If you need a gift or something special for yourself, use the promo code in the description, find something you love, and buy it today. Back to the video. If you like spending money and looking good, then visit my store. But if you don't, subscribe. It's free. And we'll begin the B tier with Calvin Ridley at 13. 65 over under. Listen to this. In his last 6 games, 82 yards per game. In spite of all the negatives, his last 6 games have been outstanding. His production easily puts him at the top of this tier, even though his matchup is bad versus the 4th best Washington back 7. But don't be scared. He's going to get what he needs. Garrett Wilson, 14. 60 over under, 66 yards per game. He gets the league average Seahawks pass defense this week. He's rested and has maintained more targets and yards per game than Adams. They are the 1A and 1B, but Wilson gets the edge as the 1A. Cortland Sutton at 15, 64 over under, 62 yards per game. Him and Knicks have been more than respectable this season, and against the league average Browns back 7, expected to keep on going. The Broncos are nearly 6-point favorites in this one. Don't worry. Scary Terry at 16, 61 over under, 69 yards per game. 69 yards per game is pretty good, but he finds himself at 16 this week since he's facing the number 1 secondary in the league, the Titans. Never fear, they are heavy favorites for this matchup, and with their injured running back core, expect Terry to do his part. Drake London, 17, 67 over under, 65 yards per game. London and the Falcons are in for a high-scoring close game with the Chargers this week, but it is stiff competition. Chargers are 10th best against the pass, but London should be fine getting his 65 yards this week. Cousins is going to need him. Zay Flowers at 18. 59 over under, but 66 yards per game. He's been one of the most volatile wideout ones this season, and unfortunately he gets the scary Philly 3rd best pass defense this week. This is the highest scoring game of the week, though, with Baltimore as slight favorites. So do expect them to run early and often, but Flowers should be okay. And at 19, Devontae Adams, 60 over under, 61 yards per game. He gets the last spot in this tier this week. He's the 1B for the Jets, and he should be fine in fantasy, even though his team in real life is suffering. It's a close game. Total's low, but him and Wilson should be fine. Which brings us to the C tier. Vegas has this group for 50 to 60 yards. The next 2 tiers are the same yardage projections, but we've ranked them according to matchup and on-field production to separate the groups. And at 20, it's Juwan Jennings. 50 over under, no respect from Vegas. Well, it's 70 yards per game. He could easily finish in the B tier this week, but the fact that they are such heavy dogs against the Bills' league average pass defense this week should tell us pretty much all we need to know. At the time of writing, we don't have clarification on if Purdy will go or not, but if he does, expect him not to be 100%. This isn't going to be a good game for the Niners. We'll go back-to-back with the 2 elite wideouts that have been suffering this season. Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill at 21 and 22. Evans has a soft matchup against Carolina's 24th worst secondary, while Tyreek has the close, high-scoring game with the tougher 11th best Packers secondary. They both have 60-yard over-unders this week, while only averaging 50 yards per game. They are incredibly talented and elite wide receivers, but all things considered, they have underproduced and find themselves low this week. I'm going to go back-to-back again with the Seahawks tandem, DK Metcalf and JSN. Metcalf has been outstanding this season. 57 over under, but 77 yards per game. Nearly 20 yards per game over expected. This week he faces the second best pass defense in the New York Jets and will be hard pressed to continue his 77 yards per game. JSN, on the other hand, 52 over under, but 68 yards per game. I mean, depending on how they move their wideouts around to contend with Sauce and company, we could easily see JSN outscoring Metcalf as the second highest passing offense. Fights to win this one. Jacoby Myers at 25, 52 over under, 64 yards per game. Myers has maintained 12 yards per game over expected and remains fantasy relevant in spite of the Raiders being the 26th worst scoring offense this season. Chiefs are 18th against the pass. He should do fine. And at 26, Darnell Mooney, 55 over under, 65 yards per game. I mean, Mooney could easily take over London's spot as he's truly risen to the 1B with London. Cousins has relied on him, and he's shown up while being underrated all year. Chargers are 10th best against the pass, though, and London could draw most of the coverage, allowing him to finish once again over expected. Devonta Smith at 27, 55 over under, 57 yards per game. I mean, it's a bit surprising to see Smith regress so much this season, as once upon a time, Brown and Smith were viewed as one of the best tandems in the league. His production has been modest with Sirianni this year, but he gets another chance to exceed expectation, taking on the 31st worst secondary this week. Only be a little bit scared. Now it's the rest of the 50s, but this tier has been less productive in spite of similar lines or have more trouble as an offense or player. We'll kick it off with Brian Thomas Jr. at 28. 52 over under, 63 yards per game. He's been the most productive player on the Jags team this season and managed to stay fantasy relevant thus far. His matchup this week is tough, though, against the 5th best Houston secondary. They're heavy dogs in this one. GL. Khalil Shakir at 29. 55 over under, 60 yards per game. Faces the Niners this week, and their back seven is 6th best in the league. Niners' run D is just a bit softer than their secondary, so we may see a lot of Cook, but Shakir should be fine to do his part as the Bills coast to victory over San Fran. And Jerry Jeudy at 30, 54 over under, but 59 yards per game. This is the biggest line for Jerry he's had so far. And round of applause. Round of applause for Jerry, just another guy. Jeudy, he's really taken over and nudged Tillman to the side with Jameis this season. Denver is 9th best against the pass. They are dogs in this one, of course, with a terrible total. However, he remains the most viable of the wideouts given the production over the past few weeks. He should be okay. Jaden Reed at 31. 50 over under, 61 yards per game. I mean, the Packers are just one of those offenses that have so many weapons and do such a great job spreading the ball around. Reed, in spite of being the clear number one, like the others, has a hard time standing out. Miami is 8th best against the pass, which further drags him down. I mean, this is a close, high-scoring game. Should be okay. Jordan Addison at 32. 48 over under, 58 yards per game. I mean, he's maintained 10 yards per game over expected and shined while Jefferson draws the best coverage. Arizona's 20th against the pass, and Addison should not have a problem getting his 60 yards this week as favorites. DJ Moore at 33. 55 over under, 51 yards per game. I mean, desperation is going to be the name of the game for the Bears, but there's a path for the wideout one this week given the negative game script and 25th worst Detroit secondary. I mean, it's Caleb's best hope of staying competitive, but let's be honest, they are 10-point dogs in this one. Not good. Tank Dell, 34. Dell's been underwhelming this season. It's 53 over under, 47 yards per game. I mean, even with his increased opportunity due to injury of the other Houston wideouts, I mean, this week he gets the best matchup possible, though. I mean, it gives him the best chance to show why they brought him to Houston in the first place. He gets the Jags' worst in the league secondary. I mean, come on, Tank. Come on, buddy. Jameson Williams, 35, 47 over under, but 67 yards per game. But why is he down so low? 20 yards over expected per game, and yet he finds himself at 35 for two reasons. Thank you for asking. For one, he only gets 3 receptions a game. Okay, boys? 3 receptions a game. And two, he faces the 13th best pass defense as the 4th look behind a star-studded run-first roster. I mean, this is as boom or bust as it gets. GL. Brings us to the E tier. We're officially depressed. These guys are your last viable options. They're projected for just 40 to 50 yards this week. And at 36, and several of these names are going to hurt your feelings, but MHJ, 48 over under, 50 yards per game. I mean, his matchup this week is sweet. He draws the 28th worst pass defense, and this is a close game with an okay total. If he wants to be taken seriously as an elite wideout, this is his chance to show the world why he was taken by the Cardinals. And if he balls out, expect him to rise. Jalen Waddle at 37, 44 over under, 50 yards per game. I mean, Waddle is seemingly reemerging as a threat that we've all come to know and love from Miami. He can keep it up, especially given Hill's injury. He should be integral to this high-scoring, close matchup against the Packers' 11th best secondary. I mean, like MHJ, if he keeps it up, expect him to rise. GL. And Michael Pittman Jr. at 38. I mean, it's the same story for MPJ. 56 over under, which is a little high, but 46 yards per game. I mean, he draws a great matchup against New England's 22nd worst secondary, and certainly has a path here to continue being productive with the new and improved AR-15. 38th isn't anything to write home about, but it's better than the last tier, and I don't know, that's an improvement. And Deebo Samuel at 39. It's a 42 over under, boys, in spite of 51 yards per game. I mean, the disappointment continues. Deebo, week after week, takes a backseat to Jennings, Kittle, and the Niners' run game. The Niners are all but out of it, and the veterans' production is at an all-time low as a result. Buffalo is league average against the pass, but San Fran is 7-point dogs in this one. Not good. Not good at all. We'll go back-to-back with Adunze and Allen at 40 and 41. Finally making out of the gutter tier as they face the 25th worst secondary. Even though they're heavy double-digit dogs in this one, I mean, Keenan and Rome will remain Williams' only hope in staying anywhere near competitive in this game against Detroit. The 44 over-under for Rome, 51 over-under for Keenan, while Rome's maintained 47 yards per game, and Allen has been abysmal at 41 yards per game. We'll go Christian Watson at 42. 44 over-under, only 38 yards per game. I mean, Dobbs is rolled out this week, so there's a slight boost to Watson's stock. I mean, it's just enough to keep him out of the gutter tier, although his matchup is terrible against the 8th best Miami defense. I mean, LaFleur and Love will have to pull out all the tricks to clutch this win. Throw up a prayer that he reels in any moon balls thrown his way. He has a chance. Boom or bust. And Amari Cooper at 43, 42 over-under, 42 yards per game. I mean, this injury has really been the bane of Cooper's season this year. And it doesn't get any easier as they face the 6th best pass defense this week. In spite of being 7-point favorites over San Fran, Cook, Allen, Shakir all leave Cooper as one of the last looks in a tough spot this week against a good defense. From here, though, they're unstartable. It's less than 40 yards. It's RIP. It's the rest. Xavier Legette, Quentin Johnston, DeAndre Hopkins, Xavier Worthy, Wan'Dale Robinson, Noah Brown. You know what I'm saying? Go buy something from my store. Look your best. Nick Westbrook Akine. It doesn't matter. Anyone left goes here. I'll put your top wideouts full screen on screen now. Thanks for staying to the end. It's quarterbacks and tight ends tomorrow, and if you missed running backs, click the playlist for all the rankings for this week. I sincerely hope this helps everyone watching. Subscribe and turn on post notifications to see all the videos each week before submitting your lineups. It's free, so it's a good value. But if you like looking good and spending money, buy something from my store and watch some more videos.